Alright, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to get this valve adjustment done and get this motor back in there. So stay tuned. Let's get into it. Alright, so according to the Ecker manual, if you have a K20 A3, your intake side will be 8 to 10 and your exhaust will be 11 to 13. A2 type S, guys, your intake side will be 08 is your minimum and 10 is your max for your intake side for your valve adjustment. Exhaust will be 10 and the max will be 11. So I already got these labeled out. This is my exhaust side, my exhaust feeler gauge, and my intake feeler gauge. The things you will be needing for this job are your feeler gauges, and I have this tool. You can use a 10 millimeter wrench and a flathead screwdriver. I'm gonna go ahead and use this, and then I will also show you guys on how to use just a 10 millimeter wrench and screwdriver. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Alright, get everything set up. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to get top dead center for cylinder number 1. So let's go ahead and do that. You're basically going to take a long screwdriver like so. If you're doing this job in your car, there's a couple ways you can do this. First thing you want to do is you want to remove your plugs. Take your plugs out. That way it's easier to spin this when the motor is inside the car. Of course, mine's out, so I ain't gonna have that problem. But if it's in the car, you want to go ahead and pull your plugs. That way it's easy to get the rotation on this. So we're gonna go ahead and look for top dead center on number 1. Basically gonna put this in, which I think is top dead center now, but anyway, oh shit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and rotate the crank. When this is in your car too, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either rotate it from the crank, or you can rotate it from the power steering. Either way, when the belt's on here, if you rotate it with the power steering, that way you don't have to go way down there to get your top dead center. You can do it from your alternator. So yeah, you can do it from there, so you don't have to do it down there. So let's go ahead and get this to top dead center. So basically I will put my ratchet on there. I think that's a 17. Let me double check real quick. Alright, so this is a 19. You're basically going to be looking for top dead center. Right now the screwdriver is all the way down. As you rotate the assembly clockwise, the screwdriver will come up. When this screwdriver comes up and then you see a little bit of hesitation come down, you're at top dead center. So that's what you're looking for. You want cylinder 1 to be top dead center when you start your lash on your intake and exhaust side, and that's how you're going to do it. You're going to get top dead center, and then you're going to start from cylinder 1, do the intake side, then do the exhaust side, and then we'll move on to the next step. So I am on top dead center right now. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to work on the exhaust side. Well, no, go ahead and work on the intake side first. And we'll take the feeler gauge for the intake side, which is going to be, if you look on these numbers, I don't know if you can see them, but it's going to say 008 millimeters. That's what you're looking for right there. That's going to be for your intake side. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to come over here. Whenever you're doing this too, on your car, you got to make sure the car is cold when you do this valve lash. You can't do it hot. If you do it hot, you won't get the right measurement. So make sure this is the motor is cold, and then go ahead and start doing your lash. You're basically going to take your feeler gauge and you're going to try to attempt to get it in between these this part right here. As you can see, it's really loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and I need to definitely bring that down, and I will show you guys on how to do that. Let me grab some light. Alright, so where you're looking to get your filler gauge in is going to be, let me see if I can get you a better picture from the exhaust side, but it's going to be the same shit as the intake side. You're basically trying to get your filler gauge in between that valve stem and the top of this rocker assembly. As you can see, it goes up. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for to get it, I apologize, you're looking for to get it right in between the valve stem and where this rocker arm touches that valve stem. That's where you're going to be sliding your filler gauge. So let's go ahead, and I definitely got to lower this one down because this one is way loose on this intake side. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me double check again, but I know it's loose. So basically gonna take your filler gauge. It's kind of hard to see. As you can see, I'm in it, and that is way loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring those down quite a bit because they are way loose. Let's see. Yeah, way loose. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring those down to where, let me show you how to do that real quick too. Change of plans. I'm gonna go ahead and do the exhaust side first because it's a lot easier to give you guys a look at what I'm doing. And the same process for the exhaust side is gonna be the intake side, except you're using a different filler gauge. So let's go ahead and start with this #1 cylinder on the exhaust side. Let me double check though, because I haven't checked them. So take your filler gauge, try not to bend it, try to keep it straight. And as you can tell on these ones are tight. Okay, as you see, the filler gauge won't go in. That one's tight and that one's tight. So I'm gonna have to bring these out. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you the method with the 10mm wrench and the screwdriver, because most of you guys will have that. And then when I do my process, I will go ahead and use the tool on the next one to show you guys on how to do the tool. So let's go ahead and do this. These ones definitely got to come loose, so I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do that. Another thing is, when this motor is in your car, exhaust side always seems to run tight when you're trying to check these, and your intake side will always seem to run looser. So just keep that in mind, that these will probably most likely be tight when you come in here the first time. So exhaust side always runs tight and intake side always runs loose. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these loosened up a little bit. So we know that these have to be loosened up in order to get the filler gauge in. So you're going to go ahead and take your 10mm wrench, which goes on that 10mm nut, and you're going to go ahead and break it loose like so. Let me double check. Yep, break it loose like so. And then you're going to use your flathead screwdriver, which you can tell goes right there. So when you're going clockwise, it's going to bring it down. When you go counterclockwise, it's going to bring it out. So down is tight, out is loose. So let me grab my filler gauge and let's go ahead and back this out a little bit, because we already know it's going to be tight. Alright, hold on. Alright, so right now I got the filler gauge in there. Right now I got too much drag going on, so I still got to need to loosen that up. Just go ahead and leave the filler gauge in there. Grab your screwdriver and come counterclockwise. It's kind of hard to do this with one hand. Come counterclockwise and loosen up that filler gauge. As you see, the filler gauge moved a little bit. Now we're going to go ahead and check the clearance. It's hard to do this with one hand, looking through a camera, doing it. So as you can see, right there, it slides pretty good. What you're looking for is a little bit of drag. I think that is still too tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and back it out a little bit more. I think that might be a little too loose. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in a little bit. Then I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it up and then check my feeler. Let me go ahead and tighten this up real quick. So once you feel you're okay, I think that might be okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it real quick and then recheck it again. Sometimes when you tighten these back up, they will change the adjustment on it, so you got to double check it. So as of right now, I mean, this is all pretty much by feel. So let me go ahead and tighten that up real quick a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the wrench and check my feeler gauge. So I tighten it up. Oops. So you're looking for it to slide and have a little bit of drag. Okay. Try to keep your feeler gauge straight as you're doing this. You don't want it bent, because then if you have your feeler gauge bent, of course you're going to feel more drag than normal. So that right there, I think is comfortable with the, I mean, it's, as I go in and go out, you can feel just a little bit of drag on it, a little bit of resistance on it. So that's what you're looking for. So that one I think is good. So I went ahead and tightened that one up. Basically, like I said, this is all by feel. It is better to be loose than to be tight. If you're loose, it'll just make noise. If it's tight, too tight, you're going to burn valves. So you want to make sure it's better to be loose than tight. Now, another way to check this is the exhaust side. So we're running a 10mm feeler gauge. So if I take the next gauge up, which will be the 12 gauge, if this goes in there, then of course we are way too high on the tolerance. Okay, so as of right now, this 12mm does not go in. I mean, just the tip goes in. That's what she said. Anyways, just the tip goes in. So oh wait, yeah, I might bring this a little bit down just to be on the safe side. I mean, it does, yeah, I'll bring this down just a little bit. I don't want this 12 to not go in at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring that down a little bit, and to make sure that this 12 does not go in at all. So that's the one way to double check, is take your next feeler gauge up and test it. You do not want the next feeler gauge, the higher feeler gauge, to go in. All right, so let me go ahead and loosen this up, and we will adjust that lash. So I went ahead and loosened it and brought it down just a hair. Got my exhaust feeler gauge, and we're gonna go ahead and check it again. There we go. Okay. Now you're doing all these measurements, increments, just like, you know, just hair tight, you know, hair loose, hair tight. I mean, very minimal, like very minimal turns on the screw when you're going up and down. So let me go ahead and check that. The other gauge, the 12, and this 12 should not go in at all. So right there, I feel confident. It does not want to go in. Okay, so I think that one's done. I'm gonna go ahead, and that's tight. So that's pretty much how you do it. Every time, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, and I'll show you. Went ahead and loosened that up. Got the filler gauge to go in because it was too tight. Right now, that's what's going on. Might be a little too much. This nut is loose, so if I feel that I need to make an adjustment to go looser, always put your wrench on, always tighten up your nut, and hold your screwdriver. See, I'm just like loosening shit up, right? It's kind of hard to do this shit with, wish I had my GoPro. But always tighten up your stuff and then check with your filler gauge. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the screwdriver on this, tighten it up, mess with the filler gauge and see where I'm at. And if I don't like it and I need to adjust, then I'll go ahead and loosen again, bring it out or in, whatever I need to do, and then tighten it back up and then run my filler gauge and see if I like it. And then I will go ahead and do the test with the bigger gauge and see if the bigger gauge can't go in. That's basically how you do it. It's all on touch. You want minimal, you want drag, but you don't want a lot of drag. Like this one right now, I think has too much drag. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that one out. But I'm going to go ahead, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bring this one out a little bit because I want it to go just a little bit more. You want just a little bit of drag. Like I said, if you have it tight, you can burn valves. If you have, it's better to be loose than to be tight. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this one out a little bit, and then I'll tighten it up and then check my filler gauge. And if I feel that it needs to go loose or tighten, then I'll loosen it up, adjust my adjustment, do my filler gauge, tighten it back up, and then check my filler gauge. Now remember, every time you tighten these back up, it sometimes might change the adjustment, so you have to double check it, okay? So even like this one, I haven't double checked it, but I will go back and double check it to make sure that this didn't change when I tightened it up. Alright, so right now I got this 12 in there, so of course it is too loose. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen it up again and bring it back down a little bit just so that that next feeler gauge doesn't go up. See, kind of, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I mean, the max for the exhaust side is 11, so this 12 should not go in. Wait, that's a 10. Oh yeah, 10. Anyways, that 12 should not go in there because the max is 11. So if that one that I'm putting in there goes in, then of course I need to come down more. Where the hell did I put that gauge at? Yeah. So anyways, this is the 12. As you can see, let me see. See, I can get it to go in. That's definitely too loose. So this 12 should not be able to go in. So I will go ahead and bring that down again. Yep. Because that is a point above. That's a millimeter above max variance. Max is 11. This is 12. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring that one, bring it back down again, and check with my exhaust feeler, and then tighten it back up, and then I will also double check with the 12. So this is basically how you do it. You're going back and forth, making sure everything is good, making sure the feeler gauges all feel good and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's a little tedious, but it needs to be done right because this could mean bad stuff. But like I said, loose is always better than tight. So let me go ahead and adjust this one. Alright, so the 12 does not go in anymore. So this is basically what you're looking for. Just minimal. I mean, not minimal, but you don't want it to be too loose, but you want some drag on it. So I feel good on this one. So this one's done. So exhaust side is done. The 12 gauge won't go, or the 12 millimeter won't go in there, and yet the exhaust ones slide pretty good. I mean, this one feels like it might be a little too tight. I might bring it up just a hair. Like I said, it's all about feeling. This is kind of what you're looking for right here. Alright, I feel confident in this exhaust side, and I will go ahead and show you guys. I took the 12, bigger gauge up, and as you can see, nothing goes in. Nothing goes in, so I feel confident on that. There's no torque specs for these, just tighten them. Don't have to go fucking crazy on them. Just give enough little and that's it. So this side's done on the exhaust. Intake side is basically going to be the same thing. You will take your intake filler gauge, which is going to be or 8 millimeters, which is going to be your intake side. And if you look on here, 8 is your minimum, 10 is your max. So when you take the exhaust feeler gauge, the exhaust feeler gauge will go in, but it'll be really tight, okay? So that's how you can double check your intake side, is this. If your exhaust goes in, but goes in to struggle to go in, then you're probably good, okay? If you can keep this 10 from not going in, or just, you have to force it in, but don't force it in, of course. But your max is 10. So if this is sliding in real easy, the 10, the exhaust feeler gauge on the intake side, then it's too loose. So bring it down, tighten it up. So yeah, that's how you can double check. So you're basically going to use 3 gauges. Your intake side, your exhaust will check your intake side, and your next feeler gauge up will check your exhaust side. And that's pretty much how you do it. You're just going to go get these dialed in, get those dialed in, and now I will go ahead and do the intake side off camera, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing as the exhaust side. You're trying to get that right gauge. Okay, you do have a little bit of variance, but not a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and then I will go ahead and show you how to rotate for the next cylinder. If I am correct, I think it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, I think it's 1, 3, 4, 2 is the firing pattern. So basically, since this is top dead center, you could basically go over to number 3 and start doing the valve lash, if you want to. And then, because that's top dead center, that's top dead center, I am going to do how the Honda Acura manual tells you to do, which is basically you're going to rotate 90 degrees. So right now we're top dead center on cylinder 1. I will take this and rotate it 90 degrees at the 3 o'clock, and that should bring this cylinder to where you need to be to adjust the valves. And I will go ahead and show you in the book when I get to the rotating part of why they tell you to do that. I mean, why it says in the manual. So let me go ahead and find that, and I'll show you guys that. Alright, so basically this is how the Acura manual says. It says tighten the lockout nut. What do you mean tighten it up? Okay, so when you're going on to your next valve lash, you're going to rotate the clock shaft 180 clockwise. Camshaft pulley turns 90 degrees. So you basically rotate 90 degrees because the cams turn 90. And then it says check if necessary adjustment valve clearance for number 3. Okay. Then you're going to move on. When you're done with number 3, you're going to go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees and check clearance of number 4. And then rotate 90 and check clearance of number 2. Okay. So basically, you're going to do 1. You're going to do your valve lash. You're going to rotate 90 degrees. You're going to come to number 3. Do your lash, or do your adjustments on here. Rotate 90 degrees. Do your adjustments on here. Rotate 90 degrees. And then do your last adjustment on number 2. That's what the manual says. I know there's other ways people do it. Like I said, some people go from, since this is top dead center, they'll go ahead and hit these 2 right here. Do it that way if you want. Then rotate another top dead center, and you can do 2 and 4. I mean, this is the firing pattern. Okay. So up to you. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way and rotate 90. Jump over to 3. Do the valve lash, rotate 90. Do the 4, rotate 90, and come back to 2, and cylinder 2 will be my last valve adjustment. That's how I'm doing it. So you do it how you want. Like I said, if the motor's in the car, you can go ahead and rotate it with your power steering pulley as long as your plugs are out. I'm gonna go ahead and tackle the intake side, and basically that's what you're gonna do. The whole valve adjustment. It's pretty straightforward, but take your time, double check, triple check your work. After you tighten that, go back in. When you feel that's good, go back in with your feeler gauges and check them. Double check them, triple check them. After I'm done with all this, I'm going to go back again and probably double check and triple check my lashes again, just to make sure nothing, didn't miss anything, or something might have went different or whatever. Double, triple, quadruple check your work. So that's pretty much how you do it. It's pretty straightforward, not too bad. I will go ahead when I jump into my next on my next intake side. I will go ahead and show you guys how to use this one, so just stay tuned for that clip. But like I said, it's pretty straightforward, but take your time and go with your gut, and if you feel one is too loose, tighten it up. But like I said, it's always better to be loose than to be tight, because tightening them, if they're too tight, you will burn your valves. If it's loose, it's just gonna make a fucking annoying ticking noise, and it'll probably mess up your idle or something like that, you know, bad start or whatever, or bad idle, whatever. So that's how you do it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tackle this intake side with the filler gauges, and then when I jump over to cylinder, when I rotate 90 and jump over to cylinder 3, I will show you how to use the other tool. Alright, so I got intake and exhaust side done on cylinder 1. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees. I guess if you guys don't want to get confused, you can just use the handle as a reference point, and then just bring it down, bring it to 90 degrees. Shit. Anyways, hold on. So I'm a little bit past 90 degrees. I'm also going to go ahead and check. We're going from number 1 to number 3. I'm also going to check these cam lopes. Okay. What you're looking for in the cam lopes is the cam lopes got to be flat. Okay. Basically, if the cam lope is pushing on the rocker, you're not going to get the proper valve adjustment. So those are flat, so those are no pressure on the rocker. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys on how to use the tool for this intake side, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move on and get this done. But that's pretty much how you do it. So we are here on number 3. To use this tool, it makes it fast. Basically, as you can see, the tool has basically a nut that, or I guess a socket that would fit over this 10mm nut. First thing you got to do is make sure the screwdriver is all the way up. You're gonna go ahead and, well, you want the handle. Go ahead and put that on that nut handle. So righty tighty, lefty loosey. So I'll be, wait, no, yeah. So I'll go ahead and pull it towards this way to loosen it, and then when you're ready, you go ahead and drop the screwdriver down just like that and break it loose, and adjust your adjustments. Pretty easy, makes it pretty fast. The only con about this is if you're sitting here pushing down on it while you're checking your lash, it's going to make it tighter. So anytime you check your lash with this tool, just make sure you're not putting any force on it. Go check your lash and do your adjustment, but try not to push this down on this, because of course it's going to push down and give you a bad reading. So keep that in mind. Yeah, but other than that, it pretty fast tool to make the job go pretty faster. So I'm gonna go ahead, that's how you use this tool. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I will go ahead and leave links in the description where to get that tool. And I am going to go ahead and finish all this up off camera, but that's pretty much how you do it. Just like I said, take your time, be patient. It's tedious. You're going to go back and forth. After I said these were done, I went back and checked them, wasn't feeling confident, and double checked them and did a couple adjustments to where I felt it was good. So, and then after I get all this done, I will go back and recheck them at least once or twice and to make sure I feel confident. But yeah, just check your shit. Can't stress that. Like I said, always better to be loose than to be tight. Tight, you're gonna burn valves, then you're gonna have to go back, take this head off and put some new valves in. Can't stress it, better to be loose than to be tight. Alright, so that's pretty much just how you do it. I mean, just take your time. I can't stress that as much. Just take your time, go with your gut. If your gut says, oh, it might be a little too tight, loosen it up a little. Like I said, it's always good to be loose than to be tight, okay? Yeah, I prefer tight, but anyways. So yeah, so that's it. I mean, just take your time, be patient, and that's it. Double, triple, quadruple 10 times check your work. So yeah, hope this helped you guys out. That's pretty much it. Hopefully I can get this shit done real quick, and try to get this motor back into that car. So yeah, like, subscribe, and okay, all day, and I'll catch you on the next one.